Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. We are here for episode or show number 67. If you are watching live, thank you. If you are more than likely watching on replay or after the fact, I hope you are doing well. Thanks for checking us out, whether you're watching or listening. I keep threatening that we'll be live on podcast in a podcast format soon, and that is imminent. There we go. We already had our first person saying hello. We had Chris coming to us from London. What's up, Chris? Thank you for watching. Sure. And by the way, Chris, need to have you on the show, man. So ping me privately, and we'll have you on the show. And I've been meaning to reach out. So thanks for doing that. What's been going on? First of all, today is an odd day for going live. Today is Monday, March 11th. It is also an odd time. It's 2:00. And last week, I was doing quite a bit of traveling and was unable to come to you live on Wednesday. And so my guest today, Joey, my schedule and his schedule. Look at that, Joey, for future CDS CEO. Look at that. That's funny. There you go. Joey, I'll see what Joey has to say about that here in just a minute. And so anyways, I was out at the ProSource Summit, going to talk about that. And then I was out in Tucker, Georgia at Sonin headquarters. That's the energy automation company. And then I was down here in Fort Lauderdale at the IC Real-Time headquarters, meeting with them. And then back in the office. So been doing a lot of traveling, and but I'm happy to be in the office. And without further ado, let me bring in the one and only Mr. Joey.
Hey, Ron.
There he is. Joey, how are you?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good.
Are you having a good day today?
I'm having a wonderful day. You bet. Working from home today. Got my kids' drawings behind me. You know, it's a wonderful day when that happens.
Here's Chris. Chris is posting. He said, Ron, I thought you had a clone. You'd been in so many places. You know what? Tell me about it. But I only do that in spurts, Chris. Joey's actually the real traveling man. Joey is all over the place all the time. I'm all over the place some of the time. Joey's all over the place all the time.
Yeah, we see each other quite a bit out on the road.
Yeah, I know. I just keep telling myself I don't travel much. It's all about a state of mind, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right, Joey. So for those in our audience, some of those watching and listening, I don't know how this is possible, but there is a chance some of them don't know you. And some of them may not know OneVision Resources. So can you give a synopsis to the audience of who you are and tell them a little bit about your company?
Sure. So really happy to be on the show with you. Thank you for bringing me on a second time. You know, I'm in a SNL kick lately, and I love watching how everybody's like, this is my second time on SNL, and they get to tell their whole story. So, you know, I feel like we're at that place with your show, Ron, and it's a big deal, you know, to be on your show twice.
I appreciate that. I was going to tell the audience that you were previously on show number 35. So if people want to go and check that out, here we are on 67. So there's been 30 or so guests in between. Only a couple of guests have been on twice. Awesome. And so you are in that rare club. But anyway, go ahead and I'm going to bug back out of here. Tell the audience who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. So my name's Joey Kolchinsky. I'm the founder and CEO of OneVision Resources. I'm a service professional by experience, by training, went to school in economics and finance, and started doing tech support for high net worth families here in the Boston area many years ago. Really started out not as an integrator, started actually as a service provider on the IT support side of things, ripping CDs to MP3s and fixing computers and iPhones and things like that. But back then realized that the pain of having to be available all the time for clients via email and phone was not sustainable. I was back in 2008 and started experimenting with recurring revenue. So my first service agreement went out in 2008. And I never stopped from then on forward. And along the way, built up an integration firm. And in 2015, I shut the integration firm down. And the reason why was because the service side of the business was way more successful than anything else. So I had developed about $100,000 a month in recurring revenue coming from 40 families. And so on average, each family was paying $2,500 a month. Our minimum was $1,000. We had some families paying as much as $10,000. And the idea was that we were their technology manager. We were their single point of contact for everything tech related, whether it was their iPhones, their email, their calendar, their contacts, their computers, their music, their video, their photos. Notice that's all the personal tech side of things. And then the other side of things, their home, their audio, their video, their security, their cameras, their networks, their controls, their lighting, shades, heating and air conditioning thermostats, et cetera, et cetera. We would manage that as well. And as an example, if a client shattered an iPhone, I'd have a new one in their hands within 2 hours, fully loaded with all of their data. So we optimized for speed and quality, did not optimize for price, and found ourselves in the very niche market of clientele that were willing to pay for it. What that taught us was that eventually there probably would be an entire industry of people managing technology in the homes, and I endeavored to help that industry, or I'd say I endeavored to build on the foundation that this industry already had, to then go and create our next generation of technology managers for the future. And so that's what I started to do in 2016. I started to join up other integration firms, become their director of service and support, help design and implement a more modern and operationalized service department within their organization. Brought a lot of the same process and structure to their service department that these integrators already had to the project side of their business. Handled a lot of their service marketing, a lot of their service process, implemented the ticketing systems, trained their sales teams on how to sell what we call tech support memberships. And of course, last but not least, also helped them with their tier 1 support. So we would do their 24/7 remote support operation as well. And all with the goal in mind of getting 100% of their clients to pay a monthly fee for ongoing support and premium services. And 3 years later, it's working. We have 60. I don't know, Ron, you can put up that sheet that we have, OneVision by the numbers, but we've got.
Oh yeah, let me throw that up on the screen.
We've got 60 something partners across the country now. We've processed over $1 million in annual recurring revenue for our partners. That's a lot of money getting deposited back into their accounts every month. We handle about 10,000 emails and phone calls every month for tech support, median response time of 9 minutes. And I'd say have successfully proven out that when pitched appropriately and when structured appropriately, your clients, integrators' clients, are willing to pay a monthly fee for ongoing service and support. And I got to tell you, it's an incredibly awesome thing, given that we've been watching this industry sort of try to figure this out for the last decade. So very exciting.
Yeah, this is a beautiful new piece of literature too, isn't it? I don't believe I had seen this cut sheet before you had just sent this to me just a little bit ago.
We designed this actually for the ProSource Summit. Ron, you and I both just came back from the ProSource Summit last week, which was awesome. And ProSource is making a massive push for managed services and encouraging their entire dealer base to get better, actually, both on the managed services side of things and on the marketing side of things. So we both happen to be, right in their crosshairs for sort of targeted efforts by their group. And we put this together for one of their presentations.
What is de-escalate 96% de-escalation rate? Like, what does that mean for those out there that may not be running service departments, or they may not be currently thinking about their after sale or after installation service in this way? Can you explain to some of the lexicon? Like exactly what do these things mean?
Yeah. So de-escalation rate. Most people, when they think about doing tech support, they wonder, well, how many problems do you solve? And we don't think about how many problems you solve at all, or we solve. So to bring this back a bit, we join up with an integrator and we become partners with them. So together, our operation and the integrator's operation join forces to create an amazing service department for the client. And we operate in unison together. We operate out of the same ticketing system. We operate with the same policies and processes and expectations. So when the client calls or emails in, they're going through the service department, and we're the first stop on that service department. And so we'll pick up the phone and we'll say, Acme Integration, Joey speaking, and use the integrator's name and engage with the client. We have all the client's information sitting in front of us because, again, we're sharing the same systems with the partner, with the integrator. And our focus on basic support is actually not to solve the problem. Our focus is to respond quickly, understand the problem, document all the issues, set options, provide options and set expectations. So give the client the options to get the support they want. Are you looking for remote support now? Or are you looking for someone to call you back next week? Are you looking for a same day appointment today because this is urgent? Or are you looking for something scheduled out next week when we have availability, right? So give the client the options to choose the support experience that they're looking for, and then go and start providing the support that they're looking for. So if they're looking for remote support in the moment, awesome, cool, let's go down that path. And a great example of de-escalation, actually here, let's walk through the two examples we use often. When a client calls in, and Ron, you can be the integrator for a second. If I'm the client calling in, hey, my Apple TV is not working, what do you do?
And I'm the homeowner?
Yeah, you're the
integrator.
You're the integrator. I'm calling in saying, "Hey, Ron."
Well, I'm imagining I'm on occasion I'm going to have to roll a van to the project in order to, or maybe I'm going to have them unplug it and plug it back in.
There you go. Yeah, totally right. Or
I could do that. Like I'm not a very good integrator, so I'm like a terrible person to ask to do. My wife is my tech support. Okay.
Awesome. So
I'm either calling her or I'm calling you. You know that. So
you know there are
these example.
I know. You know there are these things though called what boxes, right? You're familiar with Snap AV?
Yeah, you can reset.
That's right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, as an integrator, you would remotely reboot. And that's about 20% of the issues we deal with, right? 20% of issues require a reboot to get resolved. Okay, but let's say it's a little bit more complicated. And I'll play the integrator for a second. Client calls in and says, hey, nothing is working. And this is when you realize, all right, you really need somebody with technical skills to be able to answer this question or answer this phone call, right? What does nothing mean? And so you start to ask the client questions. You're like, okay, well, what are you trying to do? And the client says, well, I'm using my remote. I'm trying to turn on the TV. And I can hear the sound. I hear the news channel coming through. I just can't see anything on the screen. And that's when you start going down, the path of sort of troubleshooting and options, right? You're saying, okay, well, have you tried switching sources? And let's say, yeah, we switched to Apple TV and same problem, right? We can hear the clicks on the Apple TV. We can't see the video. All right, switch back to Comcast. When you say you can't see video, what does that mean? Do you see it saying
your
HDMI?
Team is the one guiding Mrs. Smith through this line of troubleshooting.
That's right. Yep.
As opposed to this being the integrators themselves or their staff handling this.
And we haven't even gotten to de-escalation yet, right? But we're asking, do you see HDMI 1 on the screen? And client says, oh, I don't see anything. The screen's totally black. And that's when you say, oh, okay. So now at this point,
Chris, by the way, is asking, do you only do this in the US?
No, we actually do this in Canada as well. And we don't yet have a UK partner.
Oh, there you go.
So Chris, we could be the first, man. We could make it happen.
There you go. Call Joey. So, and then Chris also, and I know you want to finish that stream of thought, so don't lose it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose it.
But Chris has been a very busy bee here posting with questions. And so I just want to throw them up there because I really appreciate it when my viewers participate and type their questions or comments. So all of you out there, you got to compete with Chris. Chris is busy. Type your questions or comments. So Chris is saying, who's the typical OneVision client, ultra high-end integrators, question mark. So maybe that's can you answer that one, Joey? Is there a spectrum of type of integrator that you end up working with?
Totally. So the typical partner probably has more than 5 employees, can have as many as 75 employees. We have integrators, we have partners who have anywhere from 5 to 75 employees. They do anywhere from $5,000 jobs up to $1 million jobs. They're based in the middle of the country. They're based in the wealthy population centers like LA and New York. and we will work to customize the platform to their needs based on their company's environment and their client demographic.
Then Chris asked one other question. Can OneVision log in remotely to the client's home?
Yeah, so we use the systems you use to remotely connect as an integrator. So we'll connect to Oversee, we'll connect to Ihiji, to Domotz, to Backpack, whatever it might be.
All right, so back to de-escalation.
Yeah.
You were giving a long explanation of de-escalation.
I know. Everything about me is always going to be long. You know me way too well. So you're a good host to all of your listeners to sidetrack for a second. Anyhow, so to wrap it all up, right? So a client, the TV is totally black, and this is when you say, okay, cool. It's probably either got a control issue or the power is out. So you walk the client through pushing the button on the back of the TV. And they go and do that, and the TV turns on, and the client thinks you're a magician, and they're super thankful, and now they can get back to watching TV for the rest of the night. And if you're really good, you're quick to slow them down and say, wait a second, just so you know, like, you're going to be able to use your remote to turn the sound off, but you're going to have to go and push that button on the back of the TV to turn the TV off. And then later next week, we'll come out to actually fix the issue, whatever it might be. In that entire process, that's what basic support would be doing, right? That is the essence of de-escalation. You got the client back to doing what they wanted to do while temporarily addressing whatever possible technical issues you could to let them get to that place. So basic support's job is not to solve the problem. Basic support's job is to get the client to a better place, de-escalate the situation, and set up advanced support to then go and solve the problem as quickly and efficiently as possible. So now when we hand that ticket off to advanced support being the integrator now has all the details. They know exactly what the issue was. They know all the steps that were taken to go and attempt to de-escalate it. They know the client's state of mind, and now they're able to go and do a great job.
So if you're out there listening and you want to know how to go find out more about OneVision, no, this is not the end of the interview. Sometimes I forget to do this. So I'm doing this now because I just remembered it. So their website is onevisionresources.com. If you're watching, then you see this handy little scroller flashing across the screen. So definitely take a look at that, guys. And then Chris threw up a question mark. Ron, what is your hourly rate? Chris, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. That's the simple rule. Just kidding, kind of. All right, let me figure out how do I hide that comment. There we go. All right, so Joey, I want to jump into. I got a bunch of things I want to ask you that have kind of that I think would be fun to cover since the last time I had you on the show. One is you and I did just come out of the ProSource Summit. We were there in Nashville. Here, I'll throw a picture up on the screen so everyone can see. There it is. Look at that. We actually have Bobby. Party. Yeah. Our man, the one and only Bobby Dodge out of the Northeast. Right. He's a ProSource district manager and a good supporter of both of our companies. And there he is. So let me see if I can figure this out. There we go. So where do you stand with ProSource? Because I've been observing, I think it's over the last 1 year or maybe more than that ProSource has really been behind integrators becoming better business people. And they've really chosen this category of after sales service. They partner with you guys. They also partner with Parasol. And they've really been big advocates from what I've witnessed. And so is that the case? What is the nature of that relationship? And maybe how was the event for you?
Yeah, so the event was great. And, it was awesome actually sharing a booth. We didn't actually share a booth, Ron. We actually had booths next to one another. We unofficially shared a booth. But we unofficially shared because we took the barrier down between our booths.
That's right.
And, so it was a wonderful event. Awesome. Always great getting out into the industry and being able to get face-to-face with a lot of potential partners. ProSource is a unique buying group in that they are really making a big focus and push on managed services. And I think, they are seeing the writing on the wall and they're recognizing the transformation in this industry that has happened to so many others that, the hardware margins are coming down. Sales, the average revenue per sale is coming down. Efficiency is going to be king in terms of being able to sustainably operate an integration firm in the future. And the long-term value between the integrator and the homeowner is really centering on the relationship and the professional services provided by the integrator. And the issue is that most integrators are not situated or not structured in such a way that allows them to sustainably and scalably, never mind profitably, deliver a high quality service operation. Recently, I've been on a kick to ask integrators, define great service to me, right? And the definitions are all over the map of what great service is. And the question is, okay, how do you make sure that your company can deliver it on a consistent basis without you having to pick up the phone all the time? Like, how do you quantify that definition, right? So much so that you can consistently do it every single time and no longer be key man dependent on anybody? Because we've done that with products, right? Define a great control environment. And some integrators are going to say, oh, well, I install a Crestron remote. Oh, I install a Control 4 remote or Savant or whatever it is. Cool. Pick your poison there, right? But ask them to define great service, and it becomes incredibly difficult for any integrator to actually define, never mind consistently execute on what they consider to be high quality support.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate. And so I know that there are integrators, and I can only say it from my own personal experience and all the various services we've offered over the years. They'll look at you and they're running successful businesses. They're making money. They're growing. They are putting the money into their bank account that they feel that they're due. Why now, from your perspective, why now should they change or look at evolving their service department? Like, so what is, if they've existed for so long without this evolved service department, right? Some of them, a select group, run profitable, scalable service departments. I think we both would agree there's no skepticism. That's a very small minority of our industry. Many do not. And so why should they evolve, and how do you handle that skeptic that looks at you and what you're espousing as the right way? Like, how do you engage that person? I'm curious.
Yeah. So let's go back 15 or 20 years. Do you remember one of the first electric cars or hybrids that came out on the market? Which one was it?
Prius.
Prius, that's right. And shortly after, there was like the Chevy Bolt and a couple of others, right?
By the way, the first electric car came out in like 1915. Fair, right? Before Ford squashed him with his gasoline engine car. That's another story.
That's right. That's another story. So 15 or 20 years ago, when the modern electric or electric hybrid came out, right, it was the Prius. And if any of us had to place a bet on who or which company was going to be the eminent provider of or seller of electric cars, what are the brands you would have thrown out there? What would you have bet on?
And say that last part again.
If you had to bet on which brands were going to be the preeminent providers of electric cars later in the 15 or 20 years later today, who would you bet on?
You would have said Toyota, or you would have said Honda or Ford or GM. Yeah. You would have said one of the big brands.
There you go. Any of the top three, right? And yet it's Elon Musk and Tesla that came around and out-innovated them, right? And sells a fraction of the cars that they sell, yet as big as any of those companies. They're worth $50 billion now, right? And what happened? I mean, the electric car companies, the car companies that existed, Ford, Toyota, GM, Chrysler, et cetera, they had the factory lines, they had the brand reputation, they had the skills, they had the knowledge, they had the technology, right? Yet they sat on their laurels and didn't innovate, right? They didn't see what was happening in front of them in terms of the demand for another type of car, whether it came from government or the environment or consumers or economics or whatever it was. And Tesla came in and won that market effectively. And I think now represents a threat, a long-term threat to many of these companies. And in fact, in the same time frame that Tesla took off, I think, what is it, was it GM and Chrysler that filed for bankruptcy. I might be getting one of those brands wrong, but two of the major car companies filed for bankruptcy. So point being that we as an industry are perfectly situated to be the technology manager of tomorrow. There's no doubt, I don't think anybody thinks these days, that homeowners will also be looking for a technology manager, if not today, shortly in the future, right? All businesses have really complicated technology stacks, and they have IT shops. They have either IT outsourced IT providers, or they have IT departments. Homeowners now also have very complex technology stacks within their home, whether it's complicated advanced racks in the basement, or it's just a whole bunch of off-the-shelf technology. And they too are going to be looking for a professional service to manage this on an ongoing basis. So who's going to do it? Somebody completely random who just builds up a whole new reputation and set of skills and tools and vehicles and knowledge, and they're going to come in and start providing the service? Or maybe the companies that already have the reputation, already have the brand, already know the builders and architects, the companies that already have wealthy people coming into their environments, coming into their companies and spending discretionary income to get more technology, with clients that already are willing to pay a premium for better service and support, right? We have all these things. It's just we don't have a sustainable, scalable service operation in place. So if we recognize the opportunity and recognize the foundation we've already built and simply tweak a few ways in which we operate, we can go and capitalize on a massive opportunity that's in front of us. If we don't, someone else is going to come in and likely eat our lunch about it. Great example is Best Buy. Best Buy right
there
now.
was just that story in CE Pro, right?
That's right. And they announced that they sold 1 million tech support memberships in the last 10 months. 1 million tech support memberships is $17 a pop. Now, that's not terribly, that's not a high amount. I also wouldn't necessarily vouch for the quality of that support. But I walked into Best Buy and I let them sell me on a tech support membership. Man, do these people have confidence in what they're selling. And yet we work with integrators every day who struggle with the idea of trying to sell support. Support to them is something that you give away for free in order to go get the next job. That worked 15 years ago when you could sell Runco TVs for 15 grand and get 50-point margin on that, right? But that doesn't work today. So it's really interesting to see how the dynamic is shifting. And that whole Best Buy article is a whole nother.
I was trying to find
story.
it real quick to splash it up on the screen, but I'm digging. I know it was just on CE Pro just recently, but I don't see it on the top of there now. There's a question that popped in. We have Allison. She's got a question for you, Joey. She says, being new to the industry, so Allison is new to the industry. She said, one of the first things I've learned is that it can be quite hard for integrators to be adequately staffed. What do you do if your partners don't have a sufficient number of technicians? Do you assist with hiring from that standpoint?
Yeah, so we generally work with integrators who already have enough of a team. And I would say enough as a basic qualifier being about 5 people. And the reason being is that part of the memberships that get sold to your clients are a promise for same day or next day on-site support. And in order to be able to do that, you generally need to have enough of a team to staff up to accommodate that. Now, with that said, we're de-escalating 96% of the issues. So, there are very few instances when you would need to, address a client's issue with urgency like that. But nonetheless, you have to be able to be available. So we have integrators who have fewer than 5 people. It's a rare circumstance. If you do need help with hiring and recruiting, it's not something we do officially yet, but we certainly provide job descriptions and we help navigate that problem. One of the first things that we do with our partners is we build an org chart of their organization. We learn who is wearing which hats within their company, and then we place ourselves within that org chart. And then we help play that game of chess over the next few years of working with you to figure out, okay, who is better positioned to be in this role or that role. And if that means helping you, hire somebody to fill a role, we do that as well.
Got it. Great question, Allison. And then our man Chris has another comment. He says, new entrants will disrupt the legacy providers. So Chris, I think I'm interviewing one of those disruptors.
Yeah,
in
I
that.
think you're one of them, Chris. That's right.
That is right. And then Chris also made the comment. He said, "You change or you die." Looks like this is not his first rodeo. Okay, Joey, high level. By the way, we've already been talking for about 35 minutes. Can you believe that? You
Yeah,
blink and
unfortunately.
time flies. Um, what does this statement mean to you? What does the future of this industry or the evolution of this industry look like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the transition from being hardware resellers to being professional service providers, and it's likely to manifest itself in a few different ways. But what you'll see is you'll start to see integrators who focus on standardizing their process. You'll start to see most likely integrators who focus their, and we're not talking about the top, 50 integrators who focus on extreme custom, or the integrators who are focused more on the retail market. We're talking about the middle, 90% of the integration market. You're probably going to see them focus more on standardizing everything they do as a business so that they can simply focus on engaging with the client. Companies like Control4 and Snap AV that standardize the product set and standardize the implementation. Companies like Portal that standardize the buying process and the proposal generating process. Companies like your company, Ron, right? That standardizes the front end marketing of integrators, right? Still allows it to be custom and personalized to each integrator, but ultimately, you take all the hard work out of it and make it as simple as it can possibly be. Companies like ours that standardize the service process. And what's left is a local brand presence by a professional that gets to know the clients one-on-one. And you now enable that integrator to just go and focus on finding more high net worth families, engaging with them, building a relationship, selling them, and handling the complex things they need to do in the field, but then moving on to the next client. They don't have to think about marketing. They don't have to think about proposals. They don't have to think about product sets. They don't have to think about service, right? More and more of these companies are becoming standardized. And that's what I think the future of this industry is. And just the way you look at electricians and plumbers and other service providers in the home, they're very standardized operations that I have a feeling we're going to be emulating soon.
Yeah, I agree with you that this market and markets are prime for disruption. I think I think it's fun to sit back and watch is exactly where will that disruption happen and to what scale, and how do you make sure you're on the positive side of that and not, caught behind the scenes. I always hear the example of, if you were making buggy whips right before Ford announced the Model T, horse and buggies were still a thing. They were actually like 1,000 car manufacturers. There were many, many car manufacturers. But yet the horse and buggy were still a thing. And they were, you'd go to the store and figure out which horse whip or buggy whip or whatever you call it, you name your tchotchke for that. And there were vast industries around just supporting that industry. And then one day, overnight, they were made non-relevant.
And I'm pretty sure that when Henry Ford came out with a car, there were still naysayers saying things like, and I haven't read the books on it, but I'm sure there were people saying, oh my God, you could die on these things and it's going to blow up under you, and et cetera, right? And trying to continue to bestow the value, the virtue of a horse and buggy and why you should still own one of those.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. It'd be fun even to go back and look at the history or the marketing around that, all the competitors and what they were saying about Ford and his Model T before and then after.
One of the interesting things though is I've seen this playing out with integrators, especially recently. Is for me, I take it for granted almost how comfortable I got selling service first and foremost. When I sold service back when I was a service provider and an integrator, I would engage with clients and I would say, look, this is the service that we provide. Great learning about you. Here's a little bit about us. By the way, the minimum monthly fee we have is X dollars per month, right? And then we price it based on the services that you need. And it would vet out 80% of the clients that weren't a good fit for us. But it allowed us to build exactly the type of client that was a good fit. Now, I'm not advocating that integrators should all go out and create price points so high that they filter out all these clients. For us, that's what was appropriate. For most integrators, though, my point is creating a standard service set that you can lead with and say, look, this is how we handle service and support, and this is what the cost of it is. And use that to filter out the 5% of clients you don't want to engage with, who probably drag you down a majority of the time, right? And instead filter in or allow through the 90-95% of clients that you really do care about and are willing to pay whatever the amount of money is or whatever your support program is, and they're willing to pay for it. And you now know that's going to be a good relationship. Too many integrators I see are still too concerned with leading with service, right? They're scared about talking about it, right? And scared about applying an appropriate dollar value to it, right? And just interesting how that continues to get companies we see into hot water a little bit.
Now, I was going to give an analogy or a comparison. Right now, One Firefly, we build websites and we host those websites and we do maintenance on those websites. And we just upgraded our servers. We just went from standalone servers to a mirrored server, master slave, so that we could improve uptime of client websites. And in order to make this move and to migrate everything, the investment was very significant. It was several tens of thousands of dollars on our part to make that move. And but when you amortize that across all of our customers, it's like $15 more a month. But yet we significantly in all these ways improve the hardware. And the reality is we messaged that out to our customer base. We've done that over the last several weeks. And can you guess how many people came back and complained and said that was unacceptable? I'm asking you, Joe. No, two.
All right.
Two. And if they want to move their website to another hosting provider, we will help them. Anything they need, we'll help them.
Unacceptable being the extra $15 a month. Yeah.
It was unacceptable.
Yeah.
And so if our company investing many, many hours trying to improve their online performance, if that is not worth it to them, I'm not judging them.
Yep.
It just means it's okay. Maybe they're better being served by someone else.
Yep.
Because our clients demand the best.
Yep.
They want the best. They demand the best. We deliver the best and the best cost.
That's right.
And that's okay.
Totally.
So it's similar perhaps to what you're saying. Sometimes it's okay if customers leave. You don't want them to leave, but at the end of the day, you want everyone to be paired up appropriately so that you're best for each other.
Right.
That is interesting. All right. So let me see here. Mr. Chris Gamble, amazing advice. I think he's talking about you. I don't know. Not my riffing on web hosting, but your advice. Thank you, Chris. Like that. Oh, and by the way, gang, I was scrambling to find that CE Pro story. By the way, CE Pro, if you're listening, your website search really stinks. So the ability to go to CE Pro and conduct a search is almost like jumping into no man's land.
The commenting too. If that same person's listening, the commenting could also.
If that same person's listening, the commenting engine stinks as well. But hey, we love you.
But we love Jason. We love Julie. We love everybody there.
Yes,
everything's great. Yeah.
Amen to that. All right, let's see here, Joey. You are next. You're actually coming down here to South Florida. So what I'm going to splash on the screen, and maybe you could speak a little bit about your presence. OneVision's presence at the upcoming tech summits, the first of which I think is tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, well, forget about my presence. Let's just talk about the tech summits in general. I mean, Ron, you've been at these things, and our friend Mark Sachowski runs these, and recently CEDIA made the awesome investment to acquire these summits. So the Florida one, I think, is just their first one of the season. They do them in Florida, SoCal, Michigan, Toronto, Texas, and a few other places. And these are basically mini CEDIAs. And there's a ballroom set up with maybe 30 or 40 booths. There you go. You have examples of a bunch of the quote unquote booths or tables, I should say. They have listening rooms or demo rooms for the projectors. basically the reps all get together in any given region and drive the traffic to these locations for the manufacturers to all come together and present updates. And this is, if you have not made it out to CEDIA, then you absolutely should be attending one of these. There are also 4 or 5 classes that happen. There's a keynote presentation in the morning. There's at least 4 structured workshops that happen, and then a lunchtime presentation, which that's what I'm doing this year, on the transformation of the industry through the lens of service. So I'm heading down to Fort Lauderdale tonight to speak at the event tomorrow. Always love attending these. You never get closer to the heart of this industry than through, frankly, a tech summit. The CEDIA event is almost always, there's almost always so much noise about the updates that are happening in the industry. But at these tech summits, the noise goes away and you're just right there, with the day-to-day integrators who drive this industry forward. So I always appreciate attending. Yeah, and there are the other locations right there.
Well, I am going to go out there tomorrow morning, Joey. So I will see you at the Fort Lauderdale event, and that is bound to be a good time. Well, Joey, it is awesome and a pleasure to have you on Automation Unplugged. It's you and I have really gotten to know each other over the years, and actually, I was about to sign off, and then I know there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know that you wanted to talk about it, and so we'll do it here. We'll take a couple of minutes. And I want to say, just because I've had such fun at these things, let me try to figure out how to get this up here. Bear with me. And so for those of you that may not know this is not a very well-known event. And Joey will tell you the why, but I know that I've been to the last 3 now, and they're rather spectacular. So Joey, you've been holding these tech CEO symposiums. You call it the symposium. What is this thing, and why should those listening or watching know about this event?
Yeah, so my wife and I both co-founded this event maybe about 3 years ago. So we're going to be hosting our 7th one, and we did it. Really, Jen, my wife, makes it beautiful and entertaining and amazing from the creative side of things. And I focus on making sure that we have the right people there, having the right kinds of conversations. And the reason why we put it together was because it was clear that, at least 3 years ago, a lot of people in this industry were talking about a lot of the same different kinds of things, but we were all evolving our thought at a very slow pace. There weren't enough opportunities within the industry for us to engage in productive intellectual discussions around what in the world is happening, right? Is service important? Is service not important? What's happening to the hardware side of things? Is Crestron really out of the industry? Are they in the industry? Is the high end really where we're going, or is Best Buy, retail oriented where we're going? What is the IoT Silicon Valley side of things doing to this industry? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? What's the future of buying groups and other industry organizations? So we started inviting 15 to 20 executives at a time to come in and gather at a different city around the country and bring their spouses with them, and have everybody stay in a great bed and breakfast for an entire weekend from Thursday to Sunday. One of those days we would reserve for a symposium discussion with the executives. And Ron's got a sample list of the discussion topics up there. And the rest of the time was meant to simply facilitate ongoing sidebar conversations and networking and relationship building. We end up having about 15 vendor executives there, and usually around 3 or 4 integrator owners there, integrator CEOs. And it's an incredibly intimate event, and a lot of lessons learned, a lot of evolution of thought, and I think a lot of progress made. So, Jen and I are always personally very excited about hosting these. Made a lot of great friendships, and learned quite a bit.
Joey, if either vendors or integrators are listening and interested in learning more about this event and how to potentially participate, what would you want them to do?
Yeah, look me up on LinkedIn, or my email is at the bottom of that website. You can send me a note if you think that you would be a great fit for the organization, or for the discussion. Then reach out and let's start a conversation. That's really all it takes and all it's about. We're looking for creative, forward-thinking people who are willing to challenge the status quo and not afraid to share new ideas.
Awesome. And I, as a person that's attended 3 of these events now, there's nothing like it I've ever observed in the industry in my 20 years. And I find them incredibly valuable, as does my spouse, Daniele. She loves going to the event and hanging out with the spouses from the other business owners and operators. It's a lot of fun. Good job, Joey, to you and Jennifer for making that event happen.
It's really all Jen. I just try to get the people there.
She is rather spectacular. I agree. Let's give her 99% of the credit.
That's right.
She's pretty amazing.
That's right.
Joey, thank you for being my guest on show 67.
Cool. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. Take care.
Awesome. All right, gang. There you have it. Let me give you some quick heads up here. Let me show you what is coming. So here I've got our lineup for the balance of this month. You can see who we have there. We have Michael Buckner from Audio Intersection. Who do we have? We have Mark from Miro Concepts, and we have Eric Thies from DSI. And actually, Eric is with someone else, but the print is too small. I can't read his name, but it's going to be somebody else spectacular that Eric wanted to bring on for a tandem interview and discussion. And on that note, everyone, I want you to have a great rest of your week. Again, this is Monday, so hopefully you're getting your week started strong, and you're going to have just a productive and effective week. So be well. Thank you for your time. And I will see you guys soon.